Hello, Patriots out there. Robert Ham here for Va2A News. Today I'm bringing you a new format, more of a longer format, informal kind of format, the ability to discuss some topics and have some conversation. I want to direct you over to the Va2A page. I've got 728 subscribers so far. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank the hundreds of you that comment on these videos each and every day and just say thanks so much. I'd also like for you to go ahead and share the page, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and like the videos. That's very important. YouTube puts a lot of different constraints on creators when they don't have over 1,000 subscribers with 4,000 hours of watch time. We're almost there on subscribers and we're about halfway there on watch time just in the first month. Thank you so much for watching, but we've got to get that above and beyond. So let's go ahead and hit that button and move forward. Also, it takes a lot to make these videos. If you want to hit me up with a cup of coffee when I'm sitting here at 3 o'clock in the morning, I definitely would appreciate it. You can do that with the support Va2A News, donate through PayPal. But the biggest way that you can help, the way that's really going to do the most benefit for us is to just share the page and have your friends and everybody subscribe. Let them know about what's going on. Share the videos on different forums and engage in conversation. Okay, today I really want to talk about three things. Number one, I want to share with you how you can find out the information that I find out because people ask where I get it all the time. Number two, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in Richmond as far as what the day looked like, what some of my contacts up there said. I was unable to make it up there today myself. Number three, I'd like to go ahead and share with you some comments that Ralph Northam made at the closing of the first legislative day of the 2020 session. And finally, we may even look at a couple comments on some videos depending on what the time looks like. And if you like that, go ahead and sound off down in the comments below. Let's get on into it. The first thing I'd like to do is share with you how to find the information that I get. So you go over to virginiageneralassembly.com, come down here to where it says 2020 regular session tracking, bills and resolutions, click go. This will take you to the Legal Information Systems website. This is where you can find everything that you want. Now you can check the bills by subject, by day, but the easiest way to find the bills that you're looking for is by most frequently accessed. So when you go through there, you see like we've got here, Senate Bill 16, Senate Bill 64, Senate Bill 18, House Bill 2. We'll go back one time. Let's say you do choose to go by day. What you'll notice is that House bills are always listed first. It's because the bills are listed in alphabetical order, and they're all HB, SB, HJ, SJ, whatever. And then they have a number behind them. So we'll always have the House bills listed first. Just scroll on down. They've got so much stuff going on with these things, it's the legislators' job to make laws. That's all they do is introduce crap half the time. And so here's where you'll find all that crap. Notice that the first part of this started November 18th. That's because that was the first available day that pre-filing motions and bills was available. And it will continue, I think, until January 17th. And then no other bills will be able to be filed for the session for the rest of 2020. Now, until next year, I should say. Now, that may not be 100%. If you know it, you just put that link and information down in the comments below. One other thing I'd like to share with you is by subject, by most frequently accessed. You've got Senate Bill 16, but there's also a Senate Bill 961. Senate Bill 16 and Senate Bill 961 actually are the exact same bills. One is from the House and one is from the Senate, but the verbiage is identical. Now, it's a long bill. To my reading, they're identical, but what you're going to find is that the bills can be pre-filed on different days. So today, it looked like the House was introducing new legislation to restrict gun owners, new red flags, new this, new that, and the other. No. In order for the bills to be passed in the House, the Senate bill doesn't just go to the House to get passed. The House has a copy of the Senate bill, and they give it a House bill name, and it's the same bill. Now, it has to be introduced by another member of the House rather than someone from the Senate. So the Senate bill, for the House to have it, has to have a sponsor in the House. So the Senate bill might be drafted by the proposer in the Senate, in this case Dick Saslaw, but on I-61, it's Mr. Levin, Delegate Levin, that actually sponsored it or proposed it in the House. That may not be 100% true. I'm just giving you the top level down. You guys go ahead and check it out in the comments below and let me know. Okay, now you know how to find the information. If you find out information that I haven't posted yet and it's important, send me a message. I'll get on it. Okay, women to take charge. Great. So Eileen Filler-Corn, she was sworn in today as the House Speaker. It's a wonderful first time in like 400 something years that, well, the first time ever that a woman has been the Speaker of the House, and she went ahead and appointed women to high priority positions throughout the House. This is a great deal. Diversity is a wonderful thing. Keep a diversity of thought. I got no issues with that, and I'm happy that Virginia is progressive. Just like anything else, she hopefully appointed smart people. I don't know that she did or didn't, but you don't want to appoint someone just because they're a particular demographic that you want so you can look pretty. You want to support the best, most qualified candidates, and I would hope that's what she did. Now, that being the case, one thing that we didn't find from her was that she didn't say anything about the rules change for the capital region, which is important. And I don't think I have it here pulled up. We'll just give you something else to look at. But the most important part of what the speaker does is that they issue new rules for the next 2 years on how bills are presented and what the capital region is going to do and how they're going to enact things. That includes rules on carrying firearms on the state buildings. Now, the past 25 years or so, that's not been a problem as Republicans have been in control and they have allowed it, and so those rules haven't changed, and so things are pretty good. Today, I would have expected to have heard something. I had several of you guys reach out to me and say, "Hey, what's going on with this?" And I didn't hear anything about it. So I posted something on the Va2A Facebook page, just saying that, hey, by the end of the day, nothing happened. In fact, I believe the minority leader Todd something was actually upset because she didn't make any statement about the rules. I can't find that right now. I was reading it earlier, but it might be here as well. However, pretty interesting day. Let's go ahead and jump over here to what was going on. Here's some pictures. There was lots of people on the Capitol. The Equal Rights Act group people, that's these guys right here that you're seeing now, they were out there lobbying. Now, the Equal Rights Act thing is interesting because it's we've got equal rights, right? We're equal, but no, it's this naming convention that makes you think that we don't have equal rights by naming it this way. And this has a lot to do with those pro-choice women's body movements. And I'm actually very pro-life, and I'm also very pro-dad. I think that it's the baby inside mama's tummy didn't come from just her, didn't spontaneously manifest. Okay, God didn't put that in her. Jesus didn't come to her in the night. Okay, so it's actually got the genetic material of mom and dad. Let me tell you what, that's both of their decisions, and that's my position on that. So if there's an abortion or something happening, men have been getting shafted for years on these parental rights when it comes to that. My body, my choice. That's bullshit. You came together to create a baby. That baby is your guys' decision together. And if you don't want it and dad does, then just let him have it at the end of the pregnancy. So I don't really get along with too much of this ERA stuff. I would like to also say that I've only read the ERA's bill preview. I haven't read the whole thing because the bill preview kind of disgusted me, and I recognized it from what New York did last summer. Also, I remember this from last year when the bill was projected into the Senate or wherever it was, but it didn't pass. It got shot down by one vote, and I can't remember which one, but I remember being happy that day and drinking a beer. So here it is again, and they're on the Capitol steps protesting, just like you would, and good for them. That's their First Amendment right. Let them go for it. My First Amendment right is to disagree with what they're doing. I don't think they got a problem already, but hey, you wanna cry about it? Go sit in the corner. Okay. I had a couple of buddies up there that live in the Richmond area. I asked them to check out Antifa and said, just tell me what they saw going around and things like that. Everything seems to be nice and quiet. That's good. My pals that live up there haven't told me that there's anybody rolling around in the coffee shop with their little man buns and any more than usual. Nobody's wearing their little masks and stuff like that. So I feel very good that we don't see anybody showing up already trying to kick up rocks because that's nice. We don't want that. When we go up there on the 20th, we just want to have a nice lobby day and a day where we can speak our minds and help change the minds of any lawmakers that may not be on the 2A side. We want to show them we're a good group of people. Okay, so that's what was happening in Richmond. Let's move on over to some statements that Governor Northam made. Now, the statements that I'm going to read to you now, this one quote that ABC 8 took, I really liked this quote because it was a direct statement that Northam was making to the General Assembly together. So he's addressing them during the State of the Commonwealth. Now, this takes place every 2 years, just like the State of the Union for the United States takes place. The governor addresses the Commonwealth every 2 years. It just so happens to be when the new House changes over. So every 2 years when they do the elections, that takes place. And so today he was addressing them. Now, what I like to read here, and I'm going to read this. I think I'm going to read it in its entirety and then kind of interject some commentary on it because I've read it before over and over and I think it's crap. Okay, I think it's crap because it's I believe it to be counter to what the reality is. It's like Hegelian dialectic. It's a half truth. It's only half the story, so it's not quite true. And here's what I believe to not be true. So this is Governor Ralph Northam, and he's saying, quote, "So we are back with 8 common sense measures to keep dangerous persons away from firearms. If you have demonstrated extreme risk of violence, or if there's a protective order against you, you shouldn't have a firearm. This means universal background checks. If there's nothing in your record, you have nothing to worry about." I'm going to continue. Let's be clear. This is all fully consistent with the Second Amendment. Every one of these proposals has passed constitutional muster. Other states have passed them into law. They were drafted from our very own attorneys at the Legislative Services, and teams of lawyers have reviewed them. It's clear that a majority of Virginians support these measures, as do a majority of you. Many of you ran on common sense gun safety on both sides of the aisle. Remember, he's addressing members of the General Assembly, both in the House of Delegates and the Senate. So he's reminding them that many of you ran on gun safety platforms, firearms reform. I know that thoughts and prayers are important and well-intentioned after an act of violence, but Virginians spoke in November, and they expect votes and laws to make Virginia's safer. And as this discussion begins, let's have an honest conversation based on fact, not fear. We will engage in a civil dialogue. I ask all Virginians to refrain from promoting fear and intimidation. Guys, this is crap from the ground up. So, 8 common sense gun measures that he's talking about. He's talking about the magazine bans. He's talking about the assault firearm reclassification and ban. He's talking about the extreme risk protection orders. He's talking about the locking up your firearms or going to jail. He's talking about not reporting your firearm in a timely manner, 24 hours, getting a civil penalty, things along those lines. All of that stuff that he's proposed. This is a problem. The reason that there's a problem is that we know that you do have something to worry about. If there's nothing on your record, you've got nothing to worry about. Specifically talking about owning firearms and the extreme risk protection order. People have died around the United States by faultily implemented extreme risk protection orders already. Florida's having a field day with it. I believe Massachusetts had an issue with it. A guy got shot up there when police entered his home at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 or something like that. And I'm speaking colloquially here because I don't have that information in front of me. I just seem to remember it in my mind. This is a problem. You do have something to worry about. And registration. That's another one of the tenets. The 8 common sense gun measures, they're not common sense. Common sense needs to make sense. It needs to fix a problem. At the end, he says we're going to have a conversation of facts, not feelings. That's also a bunch of crap, because if we were having a conversation on facts, not feelings, what was it? A report came out from the FBI that, 7 people died in Virginia from rifles, right? More like 169 died from hands and feet just last year, okay? Just with rifles. And they're banning rifles. You know, the shooting that took place in Virginia Beach wasn't with a rifle, it was with a handgun. It was with a silencer, and the guy was black. You know, it didn't fit the narrative at all. A city employee with a concealed weapons permit that was disgruntled, that was not white, that had a silencer, went on a shooting rampage. And that's a terrible thing indeed, but it didn't fit the narrative, so we got to shove it under the carpet. I don't agree with that. I'm going to move on to a second statement. Let's be clear, this is all fully consistent with the Second Amendment. No, it's not. It's not fully consistent with the Second Amendment. We can read and hear those 20-something words. We know what they state. We recognize that what they're trying to do to ban guns and rifles and stuff like that, and high-capacity magazines, which are really just the regular magazine that the firearm uses, these aren't consistent with the Constitution. It is consistent with procedural or case law that's happened. And Scalia hasn't, or we haven't had the Supreme Court slap any of these lower courts recently since the decision with Heller. And the importance of that is that these lower courts have become emboldened with liberal judges and are making rulings that may not actually be in line with the Constitution. Scalia presented several tests in the Heller case about what types of firearms could be there, and he even said, hey, the assault firearms that we've got, to use their term, rifles like the AR-15 are legal. They're in the common use. They're not dangerous. They're not some kind of different weapon. They're not a weapon of war. They're a common rifle, right? In everyday use. And even Brett Kavanaugh was grilled by Dianne Feinstein when he was going for his confirmation for the Supreme Court justice, because, of course, she had to bring that up, didn't she? And she didn't understand that he was talking about the Scalia decision, and she couldn't understand what he was talking about when he was saying, yeah, they're in common use. Well, no, they're not in common use. She says, yeah, most of the firearms that are out there that are rifles are AR-style platform rifles. Yeah, they're civilian rifles. It doesn't mean assault rifle. It doesn't mean all these other things. So my point is, you can't have a conversation and say you want to talk about facts, not feelings, but then not have facts in the middle of any of it. It's clear that a majority of Virginians support these measures, and so do a majority of you. Many of you ran on common sense gun safety on both sides of the aisle. No, the Republicans weren't out here running on common sense gun safety. The people that were running on common sense gun safety, which common sense gun safety never makes sense, were the Bloomberg guys. They were the ones taking the cash from Bloomberg. He spent, what, $2.8 million in Virginia in order to flip it. He bragged about it. Great. Good for him. It happened, okay? It flipped. But it wasn't because Virginians wanted it. Let's talk about that. You can go to the State Board of Electors in order to find out the final results from the election, and it turns out that more than 50,000 votes for both Senate seats and House seats, so over 100,000 total votes, more than 50,000 of them were on the Republican side. The Republicans received a majority of the votes in both the House and the Senate. So why do we have Democrats elected? And that's districting. That's the reason. Gerrymandering, districting, whatever you want to call it. I've got no problem with that because I believe in the process of our Constitution and our government. I believe in the foundation. I'm not the type of person that's going to say, go tear down the Electoral College, go tear down these long-standing institutions. Gerrymandering is just a part of what's been going on. Districting is just a part of what's going on. It's a part of the political battle, and they won. They won because of, I don't know, they just won. So what do? We have to fight back. Now, let's remember, they also won because they started with a 24-seat advantage. Look around out there to your local Republican Party and ask them why they didn't run seats everywhere that a Democrat ran unopposed. It doesn't matter if it's the most staunch Democratic district in all of them. You didn't even try. The Democratic Party got away with 24 seats, 24 vacancies in the House just starting out, and something like a 12-seat advantage in the Senate. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So the Republicans didn't do good. I could tell you, we got to do something about this, and that is get out there. We got to do a lot about this. Okay, so also I know that the thoughts and prayers are important and well intended after an act of violence, but Virginians spoke in November, and they expect votes and laws to make Virginia safer. Yes, we do expect votes and laws to make Virginia safer, 100%, but not like you think. This is another half-truth. It's a half-truth. What would make Virginia safer is to get rid of the gun-free zones. You want to make sure that people don't shoot up schools? Make sure that your teachers are armed. Take away the stigma. Stop fighting the gun owner. Stop fighting the law-abiding citizen, the person that's sitting there that's going through all the hoops in order to protect his or her family legally. That's not your problem. Okay? And when that law-abiding citizen, just like in Virginia Beach, sadly, decides to no longer be a law-abiding citizen, a sign doesn't stop him. But what would have stopped him? A man or a woman with a gun and a well-placed shot. Grab your booger hooker, keep it off the trigger until it's time to squeeze. That's what you got to do, okay? You want to make Virginia safer? Stop taking away the rights of Virginians to defend themselves. That's how you do it. Stop making it a stigma to have a firearm or a pistol. In fact, it shouldn't. You know what? I don't generally open carry, but since all of this stuff started happening, except for when I go to these rallies, because if I got a lot of stuff in my hands, I don't like to have my pistols showing. But when I was younger, when I first was able, 21, 22, and I got my first pistols, I open carried everywhere. And then I decided I wanted to conceal carry. But I have seen more and more people, and it has helped me choose to open carry more by seeing them open carry, to send a message and say, hey, dude, we're here. Concealed carry permit holders are here. And we're good guys, and to make it so that you see it more often. I'm happy when I see a guy with an open carry pistol in not Safeway, but the Food Line or something like that. Because it means everybody else gets to see it too. And that one act just takes a little bit of that stigma away. I don't think we should go around open carrying our rifles, but while we got the opportunity, Why not, right? It's an open carry state. And he says, once again, as this discussion begins, let's have an honest conversation based on fact, not fear. Well, this is ridiculous. Fact, not fear. Your buddy Don McEachin was sitting there trying to scare Virginians with the National Guard in order to submit, right? That's what you were trying to do. You're trying to float these notions. Now, let's have a conversation about that. Is the National Guard going to be pulled in? No. The AG, the Adjutant General of the National Guard, came out with a non-statement statement a couple weeks ago, and it was so limp-wristed. I didn't even like it. But the reality is, no, the National Guard's not going to be running out here. They're not going to run out here because there are enough people in the National Guard that are just like you and me, okay, that have brains that aren't going to stand up for that. One National Guardsman who was anonymous came forward and wrote a letter to Don McEachin to explain to him a couple things. This isn't the forum today where I want to talk about the Public Comitatus Act or anything like that, but the National Guard, the minute they stop being a state civil distress or national disaster disturbance force and begin moving into a policing operation, specifically with a police force mandate, they change roles from Title 32, which is Guard and State, to Title 10, which is Federal, which immediately makes them an acting standing army. Now, that's not just my opinion. That's how it was explained to me when I was a guardsman. You understand? Okay, I was in the Guard, okay? And so we talked about this quite a bit. And I just, maybe it's an older school of guardsmen, but I just think that's crazy. But my point is, yeah, don't want to promote fear and intimidation? How about not letting your guys talk about this? How about not threatening the city councils with taking away their funding if they don't do this? How about not having Mark Herring, the Attorney General, come up and say that this has no force of law and everything else? Well, you know, that's right. It may not have any force of law for you, but it definitely has a lot of force of law for me. It doesn't change anything that I do with my rifle and my pistol that you do up there right now. And that means that we have to have this concept of an honest discussion, not based out of fear. It needs to be an honest discussion on facts, not fear. I want to speak to the Boogaloo for a minute. There's lots of guys. I get the comments, and maybe I'll pull one up while we're here. I get comments about the
going on in Virginia
all the
today.
time, right? About how people want to start the war. Well, when I look out my window, I don't see any bullets flying. Until bullets are flying and there are blackstrap boots guys that knocking on my door, which could be with the governor's new budget, right? Then there's no time to fight. It's time for voice. You guys got to understand that. Screaming and yelling at other people in the community. I've had people scream and yell at me. I had this one girl, she's so cuckoo, she told me I wasn't even the person that was at the meeting recording when I was there, right? Blinders on so tight she can't see the tunnel ahead of her, right? We got to stop that with the infighting within us, okay? It is important that the government body knows that we are an armed public. They know that. They don't have any question about that. That's what the Second Amendment's for, right? They understand that we're an armed body of people, okay? But we don't need to go parading that in their face. And there was a report from the Hal Leonard show about the governor talking about suspending communications and electricity in different areas should there be a problem. Now, I completely dismissed that he said that to anybody, but the reality is, yeah, so the government, everybody, even the city councils, they all have disaster relief plans. They all have contingency plans. So if you had the ability to control in areas, C2 command and control, if you had the ability to do that, why wouldn't you knock out those things? So I'm sure that those things have been discussed. However, nothing credible came out about it. So I think that during that time, when the sanctuary city movement was hitting its peak, when the sheriffs and police officers were saying they weren't going to follow unconstitutional laws, when the governor said that there'll be consequences and started threatening the city governments by taking away funding, then when that didn't work, he turned around and came out with what? Senate Bill 64, I believe that he didn't come out with it, but the strike, maybe it's 71, the strike, yeah, it's 71, that strikes any police officer that strikes or refuses to do their duty automatically evicts their position. Those things right there, and then that just emboldened the 2A community. Tazewell formed a militia. Don McEachin started talking about the National Guard. Someone floated a rumor that the governor said he'd knock out power and communications and the internet. Yeah, this has all been a big tit for tat back and forth, and it's got to be something that should be thought about. We were talking about the Boogaloo, and that's kind of like where I'm coming from. We don't want to talk about the Boogaloo in that sense to make anybody too froggy so that they won't jump. The governor already knows that we're fired up. We don't need to wave a red flag and start drawing attention to it. And remember, the most, the most dangerous man in the room is the one that's underestimated, right? Okay, so we want to be that guy. We want him to just relax, and we don't want to give him any reason to jump and feel froggy just yet. So here we go. I don't see any questions, but I do see some statements, and this is on the video about Tazwell's militia. I would suggest you guys give this a watch. If you haven't seen the Tazwell militia video, it's a 9-minute video. It takes me about 7 minutes just to explain what I'm trying to say, because most people haven't read the Virginia Constitution in a long time. So I want you to understand the important parts I'm going to talk about before I make my statement. And I think that the next step for us in protections of our liberties, especially in these next 2 years, is going to be forming constitutional militias around in each of our areas, like Tazwell did. And if you watch that video, that'll give it a little bit more discussion so that you can hear what we're talking about. Okay, so that's going to bring us to an end. I want to thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. And I want to remind you that I will be out there on January 14th in Portsmouth with you guys. So if you're in Portsmouth, hit me up. Let me know. Okay, watch it. Send something out to the Facebook page and YouTube. And just say, let me know to look for you. And then I'll plan on being in Richmond on the 13th, so that might be a little difficult if I go on the 14th to Portsmouth back and forth. And then, of course, on the 20th, lobby day for the VCDL lobby day to be out there with you guys. And I plan on going up a couple days ahead of time because I don't think I'll find parking. That's something to consider. So there we have it, guys. I'm Robert Ham for Virginia Second Amendment News. I'm reporting on your rights. Thank you for watching.